fans who started booing and hissing me tonight, don't try that again. I am a star, and next time I come here, I want you all to get down on your knees and kiss my feet.
From pillar to post and coast to coast, this is Live Audio Wrestling.
Live Audio Wrestling.
I'm the law around here, brother.
Your number one source for pro wrestling and mixed martial arts news, interviews, and opinion.
You're welcome.
With Dan the Mouth Lovranski.
Really hard to believe that so much man could be wrapped in such a good-looking package.
Jason Agnew.
I'm the most hated man in pro wrestling, and that's just the way I want it.
And John Pollock.
Here's Johnny.
This is The Law on TSN Radio.
Because our time is now.
Somewhere along the way, WWE writers got confused with ECW and Dungeon of Doom tonight. Hello, everyone, and welcome to The Law. It's Live Audio Wrestling, powered by the Fight Network, and coming at you live on TSN 1050 in Toronto, the 1040 in Vancouver, and Sirius XM Canada Talks Channel 167. My name is Jason Agnew. As always, beside me, Dan the Mouth Lovranski and John Caterpillar Pollock for 2 hours of pro wrestling and MMA chatter and mouth. Tonight, we're going to chat about the polarizing pay-per-view we just watched, and then be joined by perhaps the greatest voice to ever call a wrestling match.
You got it, Mr. Agnew. It's going to be a real slobber knocker here tonight as we not only run through the latest WWE pay-per-view, Extreme Rules, but welcome one of the greatest wrestling commentators and judge of talent as our special guest. Yes, the one and only JR, Jim Ross, will be joining us tonight live to prepare you all for his one-man show that hits Toronto next Friday at the Danforth Music Hall. JR will be ready to take your questions, and believe it or not, he also watched tonight's Extreme Rules pay-per-view, and he's even going to join us when we talk to Dave Meltzer, so you don't want to go anywhere and miss this very unique broadcast. Hell, we're even giving away tickets to his show next week, so as Jay loves to say, don't you dare miss it. And of course, as always, we want to hear from you. Did you dig Extreme Rules? What about the Wyatt Family Choir? And hey, does your mother let you spray paint your enemies' names on the kitchen table? Inquiring minds want to know.
You think we're going to get to that kitchen table thing? You think that's going to happen tonight?
I just thought I'd stick it in there.
Alrighty. Okay, guys, give us a call, 416-870-1050, 1-855-591-6876. Talking about the pay-per-view. We're also lining up your phone calls for Jim Ross.
Yeah.
A little bit later this hour, your chance to talk to him. He's going to be on the line live with us. Outlaw Radio is where you can send in your tweets. Pollock's monitoring that, or join the conversation at lawradio.proboards.com. It's pay-per-view night. We're going to take a break, come right back, and run down WWE Extreme Rules Dungeon of Doom. That
Get
was
out the
tonight.
forklift. Kane, don't. No! You gotta be kidding me! You gotta be kidding me! Somebody get a damn fireman out here! Fire. Kane's gonna put Brian through the table! Stop this! Oh my God! The demon's burning in hell! Daniel Bryan with a knee to the face! Bryan with a knee to the face! Bryan retains the championship!
If I said it was a good pay-per-view, that's what would be untrue. Actually, you know what? No, not necessarily. Half-half. Half-half tonight. Half-half.
There was stuff on this that I did really like.
Oh, my goodness, yes. That one match in particular was just unbelievably stellar. Hey, welcome back to The Law. It's Live Audio Wrestling tonight. WWE Extreme Rules took place later in our program, just about 20 minutes or so. Jim Ross is going to join us on the show, taking your phone calls for that. But, Mouth, we got that 20 minutes, so let's run down what we watched tonight. WWE Extreme Rules, the pre-show started with the WLC match. It was Torito with Los Matadores versus Hornswoggle with 3MB. We also had a mini ring announcer, a mini referee, plus mini announcers. Micro Cole, Jerry Smaller, WBL, who later on changed his name to JB Elf, which I very much enjoyed.
Yeah, I like that better.
Listen, the crowd loved this match. It was silly. It was fun.
Yeah,
it was gimmicky. I had no problems with this on a pre-show.
That's what I was just going going to say, this is the type of stuff that should be on the pre-show. You shouldn't be putting important title matches. Something like this gets the crowd warmed up, gets everybody kind of laughing and carrying on. It was very silly. Tons of small jokes, of course. And the finish, El Torito put Hornswoggle through a table when he did his usual dive off the top rope. So Torito victorious in this match. I agree, perfectly cheap fodder for the pre-show.
Match number 1, as we get into the pay-per-view, is the Intercontinental title match. Some confusion here. It's Rob Van Dam versus Swagger versus Cesaro.
No, it's not for the IC title, though.
Oh, sorry. I had that written down. This is the elimination. Well, that was also the confusion, is we thought it was an elimination match, but...
We were right.
We were right. The announcers didn't quite know that.
It's unbelievable in this day and age with all the publicity and the fact that they even put a special thing to it on SmackDown that the announcers did not know the stip.
Heyman comes out here as Cesaro's the third one out. He cuts a promo, talks about the synagogue of hardcore.
To the Tribe of Extreme.
Says that WWE only gets it right once a year tonight, where the Tribe of Extreme comes together, gets together to celebrate the fact that his client, Brock Lesnar, beat The Undertaker at WrestleMania. They start booing him. Says the 11th commandment of Extreme is, thou shalt not boo Paul Heyman. They boo him more. Introduces Cesaro. They cheer Cesaro. Then the announcers announced it was first pinfall as opposed to an elimination. There's that confusion. This match, generally, despite the confusion of the announcers, which kind of took away from it.
From the first pin, they did.
They didn't quite know what was going on. But, I mean, these guys worked well together.
Absolutely. I thought
correct outcome.
Exactly. The match did what it was supposed to do, and that was to get Cesaro over huge. And he, of course, he did the swing on Swagger. He did the swing on RVD. There was some spots with some trash cans and stuff because they were really playing up the ECW side of it with RVD, and he even got the chant at one point, and he even did a frog splash onto a trash can at one point. But the finish was RVD went for the frog splash, missed. Cesaro gave him the neutralizer on the trash can for the win. It was 12 minutes, 30 seconds. It did exactly what it was supposed to. It got Cesaro over, and that was awesome. And Heyman's promo was brilliant.
Yeah, we see Daniel Bryan in the back, them with the trainer testing his arm. Steph walks in, says she's concerned about his safety because she can't control Kane. Concerned not only for him, but Brie and his mom as well, because they have to watch it. Steph says Bryan does not have to compete tonight. He can instead officially surrender the WWE title instead. Bryan tells her to get out of his face, and then she says that Bryan's going to end up being Kane's bitch.
She said it just like that.
Just like that. Bo Dallas vignette after that. They're in this vignette. I don't know if this is aired on TV before.
It has. Yeah.
With this one with the positive pregnancy test?
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Oh, I didn't notice it then. I noticed it now.
That was good.
Personally, I cheer when those things are negative. Lana comes out wearing blue. I think she should always wear red for the Russian thing. Lana says she dedicates this match to Vladimir Putin.
It was awesome.
This was fantastic.
They put his picture up on the screen and everything.
This was so great. And that it was strange, though, because apparently Rusev now resides in Russia, which is... Oh, why didn't they just call him Russian?
Exactly. I don't know.
Truth and Xavier Woods come down to the ring. Right as they get to the ring, Rusev attacks them before the bell starts, smashes them to the outside, in particular Woods, who just doesn't get up, and then Truth and Rusev have a match here, and it's kind of a squash match. It was got some offense.
It was basically a squash. I mean, it was only 2 minutes 50 seconds, and it came to the finish with like Jay said, Xavier's on the outside. They're looking at him. The medics are out there, and then Truth gets the camel clutch there from Rusev, and he submits. And then, of course, Rusev went after Woods again after the match and gave him another suplex on the outside. So yeah, again, the match did exactly what it was supposed to do.
Renee is backstage with Evolution at this point. Triple H says the Shield thinks their egos are going to be their downfall, but they talk about the 32 championships. It runs down what Orton has done, what he has done, what Batista has done. Batista doesn't talk. He just kind of sniffs Renee's hair, which I found kind of odd. And then they parody the whole hands thing where the Shield does at the end of their promos, Believe in Evolution. Intercontinental title matches. Next, Bad News Barrett comes out, says he's got some bad news, says, what is it, MRSA? Or MRSA is the short form for this. It's a virus that has just struck the U.S. and but that virus is going to pale in comparison to what he's got going and what he's going to do to Big E tonight. And it's Big E versus Bad News Barrett for the Intercontinental title. Did you know that Barrett's a 3-time former Intercontinental champion, Mouth?
No, of course not.
Well, that stat was put out there tonight. The fans chant, "Let's go Barrett" to start the match. And really, can you believe how over this guy is?
Despite this
gimmick. On a gimmick that we railed on this show.
Yep.
I mean, admittedly, it has caught on.
It
has. has.
People definitely seem to be into it, although they weren't really into the match that much, I don't think. Barrett did do a crazy Mick Foley-style elbow to the outside on Big E, which I thought was weird. Big E did this crazy spear that sent them both through the middle rope to the outside. Looked very, very nasty. Barrett did the winds of change for a near fall, but then Barrett got him with the Barrett Bullhammer for the pin there at 7:54.
We have an Adam Rose vignette out of that. He's coming tomorrow to Raw.
Very excited for that.
Then in the middle of the card, this is about 9 o'clock or so, the Shield versus Evolution is on. We were debating whether this was going to go on last. No, they put it in the middle of the card. Triple H comes out, black boots, black tights. Orton, black boots, black tights. Batista, red tights and reddish-orange Jordans for boots.
He really looked out of place. I don't know why he was dressed like that. Yeah, it was bizarre.
This one starts with all 6 guys in the ring going at it, and that type of chaos continued through basically the entire match. Yeah, great spots. Well booked.
It was a good match.
I really lived up to the Extreme Rules pay-per-view name as well.
Very, very exciting match, and I loved the crowd on this one. Anytime Batista got tagged in, they booed him out of the building. It was really, really funny. It didn't matter what happened, but they were into a lot of the other stuff, very much into the Shield. They did all this crazy stuff where they fought out in the crowd. They hit a cameraman on the outside at one point. Ambrose did this crazy running dive off the announce tables. They fought in the crowd. They fought in the stands. Rollins did a crazy dive out of the stands too, but he landed perfectly on Orton and Trips and Ambrose, who were all fighting with each other. And then back in the ring for the finish, it was back to Reigns and Batista in the ring. Reigns corked him and then gave him the spear, and he pinned Batista 1, 2, 3, 20 minutes long. Again, really good match, and it did what it was supposed to do, made the Shield look really, really strong, beating someone like Evolution.
I was so into this pay-per-view after this. Like, during this whole match, sitting up,
that match
watching
really got,
intently.
That match got me into it, because the rest was it was good, but that match really got me into it.
I was like, oh, this is going to be great. Now we're going into a match that just had a phenomenal build on Monday.
Yes.
I don't know. Yes. There are some people that have criticized this. On Monday, with the children's choir and the sheep masks and the Wyatt Cena thing, I love that moment.
Yeah, my only thing would have been if the mask could accommodate them, if they were actually wearing the masks as they started singing. I thought that would have been great to make them all kind of look faceless. But I agree with you. I thought it was really, really, really cool the way they did it.
And there was an excellent video package recapping the Cena and Wyatt angle here going into this. Cena comes out. The crowd starts to sing that whole John Cena sucks thing to his theme. Now, let's keep in mind we're also in the arena where WWE was the night after WrestleMania 29. So they're known to be clever and they're known to be rowdy. This was so well built. And then the match itself, I would use the words slow, choreographed, illogical, and terrible finish.
Yeah, really illogical. I mean, the one thing that you want with this type of thing is the cage match is to keep the other guys. Well, geez, Rowan and Harper were almost in the cage as much as Wyatt and Cena were. They were constantly interfering from the outside or getting in over the top and stuff like this. But yeah, it went all over the place. Cena was going out the top at one point. Bray pulls him back in. He tries, of course, to get the sister Abigail's kiss on him at one point, but Cena gets that into an STF. You know, Wyatt even teases that he's going to walk out the door with the spider leg thing, but that didn't work. There was one part where Wyatt was almost out of the cage, and Harper's pulling him on the outside, Cena's pulling him on the inside. Just pretty well everything you could think of on this one. And then just as Cena had them all beat, and he's lying in the cage, and Rowan's actually lying on top of the cage, the place went black. And that song started up again about he's got the whole world in his hand, but it was playing and then it slowed down, sped up, slowed down, and then the lights came back on again, and Wyatt gave Cena the Abigail's kiss because this was enough to distract Cena, and then there was a kid standing outside the cage as Wyatt left Cena in the ring, and he got out of the cage to win, and then they walked away with this little kid. It was very, 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 very strange finish to the match for sure. And I'm guessing that the feud continues.
Yeah, it definitely did look like that. The finish to me looked like a scene from the TV show Resurrection, if anyone has seen that out there. I've only seen the previews, but it looked like that. They go to the panel here. They kill time. That was pointless. Divas Championship match, Paige versus Tamina. Now, the crowd was obviously still dead for this.
Yeah.
And Paige really has a big challenge here, not only with Tamina being limited, but the crowd crowd, in my opinion, still doesn't know who she is. She got the title way too fast.
No, exactly. See, that's the problem. They brought her up from NXT, give her the title right away. They didn't give people any chance to kind of get into her or see what she's all about or anything. Exactly. I think it's been kind of doomed since the start. So the crowd really wasn't into it too much. Paige did give Tamina a powerbomb for a near fall. And Tamina tried the super kick but missed. So Paige got her crazy modified scorpion crosslock. That's what Michael Cole called it, for the submission at 6 minutes. So yeah, it was just it was obviously the barrier match between the two big matches.
We then have a vignette, the Wyatts with the kid in the back in the dark. Apparently
Johnny.
The kid's name is Young Johnny. Says Cena now stands alone with the Vanquished, but they shall soon join them. He asked Johnny what they should do, and the kid says, follow the buzzards. But it's in that stupid, modified, distorted voice that they had him sing at ringside with. It was just terrible. Just Dungeon of Doom awful.
Like, is this little kid going to be part of the ensemble now? Like, is this little kid with them all the time now? Like, I don't know.
As much as I just said how much I liked Monday, I hated this equally.
Yeah.
Just the exact polar opposite, like a complete 180.
Why you don't want a little kid involved in the finish or part of the angle. It's ridiculous.
WWE Championship match is next. Main event, which is great. Cool. Daniel Bryan's in the main event. We had talked about that on the show previous. This is an anything goes Extreme Rules match. Daniel Bryan versus Kane. Extreme Rules, but as we learned, you have to pin the guy in the ring. Because if you don't have him in the ring, you got to get a forklift and bring him back to the ring.
I didn't really understand that it being an Extreme Rules match, why you had to take him to the ring. But anyways, that's what they told us. Because, this one was all over the place. The crowd got more amped up again for this one because Bryan just ran right up the ramp and attacked Kane right off the bat. So high octane right out of the gate there. They did do a kind of a goofy spot where they picked the tops off the announce tables, those thin plastic things, and hit each other with them. And Kane actually sold it, which I thought was pretty ridiculous. They were fighting all over the place, up the ramp, out to the back. Kane trashed the flat screen TV for no reason at all. He just kind of threw it into the garbage. Bryan hit him with a snow shovel at one time. Kane picked up some weird gas canister and he threw it at Bryan, but it missed and it went right through a car windshield and kind of ledged in the windshield. It made for really kind of a neat visual there. Bryan hit him with a crowbar and knocked him out, and he couldn't move him. So what do? Well, you don't drag him back to the ring. No, there's a forklift parked right there with a pallet all set, ready to go. He rolls Kane up onto the forklift, drives it out to the ring, cranks it up way to the top. He's got Kane on the pallet, and Kane half-assed fell off it because he didn't want to hurt himself there. So of course Daniel Bryan climbed up to the top of the forklift. He did a diving headbutt onto Kane for a near fall at that point. Kane sat up and he gave Bryan a choke slam for a near fall, and then Bryan gave him a succession of chair shots and went for the S-lock, but Kane got the kendo stick to stop him, and so but Bryan grabbed it and then used it with the S-lock as well.
Yes,
but Kane
the S-lock.
Yes.
Yes.
That's what I said.
No, he said
twice. Did I say right.
Yes.
Yes, the yes-lock. Sorry, my mistake. And then Kane chokeslammed Bryan through the announce table on the outside. He got the table out and he got some gasoline. He had a gas tank with only a little bit of gas in it, which I thought was kind of weird. He put gas all over this table, but we saw guys with fire extinguishers even before we saw that, so we kind of knew it was coming. He set the table on fire, but he was trying to grab Bryan and throw him through it, but Bryan knocked him through it instead. He got extinguished right away, and then Bryan got him back in the ring, gave him the flying knee, and then got the pin for the win after 23 minutes. It was Extreme Rules. It was definitely in that ECW vein for sure.
So half-half kind of thing. I'd go... It's tough because you end with such a sour note with those last 3 matches was kind of a downer, whereas if you had the unfortunate, say that Shield match was excellent, it did feel like the main event of the show. Seemed like a lot of focus was around it.
It just seemed weird. Those 2 other matches seemed to be really overbooked. I don't know if it's because the endings seemed predictable going in and it seemed obvious who was going to win, but they really did kind of overbook the Kane match and the Cena match.
Pollock, how did you feel about this pay-per-view tonight?
I agree. It completely peaked with that 6-man. I think the main event was salvaged because the crowd was so into Daniel Bryan at the end that they really didn't care about they completely went silent when you went into the back.
Yes,
you're going to get that regardless when you do that kind of thing. So thumbs in the middle show. I thought the 6-man was just incredible and served so many different purposes. It builds to that eventual Triple H Roman Reigns match, which I think you would want to build to. I just thought that match was so so well put together. It was great.
Yeah, absolutely. Just the essence of the pay-per-view was all embodied in that match. Do we want to get a call in before we go to break here? Someone that wants to just chat about the pay-per-view tonight?
Yeah, let's go to line 2. Chris is in Los Angeles.
Hi, Chris. What'd you think?
Yeah, it was. I mean, I liked the beginning of the pay-per-view, but the last couple matches, in particular the Cena Wyatt thing, and I mean, I want to know if, a couple things. One, do you guys know if they need to do that kind of stuff to maintain their sci-fi standing with the network? And,
no.
Okay.
No.
All right. Because
definitely not.
I mean, it just seems so random. It's like, you know, when I see this kind of stuff on wrestling, it's like watching Law and Order, and then Superman coming out and just blasting people for no reason. It's just not consistent with what they've been doing. I thought they've been doing a good job with angles and booking that was semi-realistic, and then this was just way too corny for me. It was just hard for me to stomach.
Yep. As I said, I liked Monday. I didn't like tonight. I thought tonight really missed the boat, and don't know where it's progressing to. I just like the deal. Cena's aimed at the kids, and they're all about the Make-A-Wish, and all the kids still cheer Cena. And the fact that you had all those kids out there on Monday, and all of a sudden they are the sheep that are going towards Bray Wyatt. I like the whole message behind that. And then tonight, no. I mean, yeah, the kid was supposed to be a distraction. I understand that, guys, everyone that is tweeting me. I understand the kid was supposed to be a distraction tonight, but it's just kind of like that whole match just fell out of place because it's like he's just overcoming everyone in a cage match, and it ruins the gimmick.
Yeah, well, and plus the whole thing that he's distracted by a kid, I don't know. And the fact that they showed another vignette later in the pay-per-view with the kid does not bode well, because that means it looks to me like the kid's around for a while.
Kid walked in the store. Wouldn't that distract you?
Yes,
it would. You hesitated. All right, we're going to take a break. We're going to come back. Jim Ross on the program next. If you'd like to talk to Jim, you can give us a call right now, 1-855-591-6876. It's The Law, live audio wrestling.
Every night, I didn't have much to say. I didn't give up the light. I closed my eyes, I closed myself, and
Hey, wrestling fans, John Pollock here from Live Audio Wrestling, wanting to let you know that Friday, May the 9th, it's Ringside, an evening with Jim Ross, happening at the Danforth Music Hall at 9 p.m. The show will be hosted by yours truly, featuring many of Ross's stories from 40 years in the business, from a referee to broadcaster and head of WWE Talent Relations. Plus, there's an interactive Q&A portion, and we plan to see you Friday, May the 9th at the Danforth Music Hall. Tickets are available now through Ticketmaster.ca.
Live audio wrestling
15 years of blood, sweat, and tears
on TSN Radio.
I fought the law and I won. I fought the law and I won.
And Batista going for a Batista bomb to put this one away. Superman punch, Batista right on the button.
Well, a bit of a strange combo there. Not the voice that you heard. That was not Jim Ross calling. That, of course, Michael Cole. But definitely the highlight of tonight's pay-per-view happened in the middle of the card. That was, of course, the finish there of the six-man tag. But we are going to talk about this pay-per-view more, but a special guest to talk about it with us, a gentleman that will be here in Toronto this upcoming Friday, May the 9th, 9 p.m., Danforth Music Hall. It's Ringside, an evening with Jim Ross, and it's going to be hosted by our own John Pollock, actually, which is fantastic. They did this in New Orleans as well. Tickets are still available at Ticketmaster.ca, so find him there and find him right here. Jim Ross, a pleasure to have you tonight on Live Audio Wrestling.
Thanks, guys. It's really John Pollock's show, and I'm just making a cameo.
There you go. Yeah. People come out in droves for Pollock.
Yeah.
I'm his wingman. I'm his north of the border wingman. So.
All right.
I want to see that, Jim. I want to see that television series. You and Pollock out on the town, and you being Pollock's wingman, and you have to get him a hat as well to wear. I think that would be great.
We'll work on that concept.
Fantastic. Jim, you know what? Let's start tonight. I was reading your Twitter. I heard you watched this on the WWE Network on a patio tonight. How did you find WWE Extreme Rules overall tonight?
I didn't think it was bad. I thought it had some really good moments. I thought the six-man tag was exceptional, and I enjoyed my experience. It was kind of unique sitting outside and watching the whole thing on an iPad, because I'm so accustomed to watching it on television in my easy chair on a big screen TV. So the whole experience was a little bit different, but I thought the show was pretty solid. I thought the cage match went a little bit long. Not a big fan of leaving the arena like the forklift thing in the back. I didn't dislike the forklift deal.
You didn't. That kind of surprises me because it's just so out there and bizarre.
Well, it's Extreme Rules. I think what they backed themselves into a corner by theming these pay-per-views, and if you're not going to do blood and guts, you got to do stunts and sensationalism.
Right.
That's where you are when you're booking the darn thing. So it didn't surprise me about the forklift, and I didn't anticipate it, but just like it didn't surprise me about the flaming table.
No.
What about the cage match, though, JR? And I know, us old school guys, a cage match usually means it's so you can keep the other guys from interfering. But, I mean, in this cage match, Rowan and Harper seemed to be in there almost as much as Cena and Wyatt were.
Well, I didn't. In hindsight, I didn't like that creative. I wrote about this earlier today, and I don't know if I may have had it on my blog today. I'm not sure. I'm producing too much content apparently. Or I'm just getting old. I can't remember all the damn things. The cage match, the rule of escape, was created years ago to, allegedly protect a babyface from losing a cage match. Well, first of all, babyfaces should never lose a cage match, and cage matches should be the last step on the journey of a program. Mm-hmm. And you should either lose by pinfall or submission. Even if you've got a babyface that was leaving the territory and you had a cage match and the heel was residing, was going to stay there, and the heel went over, you should go over with his finish and beat the hero that was departing the territory. So I have old-fashioned values, and I hear about that on Twitter. I'm too old to even I shouldn't be responding to it.
Well, I mean, you must have been happy with what they did, though, with Cesaro and Swagger and RVD, because I know you've been a big fan of Cesaro, and I agree. He deserves to get that extra added push.
Well, you're right, and I actually like all three of those guys, and I thought that was a real solid match. I thought whatever producer laid it out did a real nice job. Thought the talent worked hard, and the right guy won, based on where they're going. I hate to see Swagger get beat so much because I think he's got a lot of potential, and I will admit that I'm biased because he's an Oklahoma kid and I helped get him his gig. But I love RVD too. But you get in those deals where somebody's got to lose, and I would much rather see a winner and a loser straight up than a lame disqualification or a count out. Just it doesn't. They've been overused so much they've lost their significance.
Absolutely.
Jim, we're going to talk more about the pay-per-view when we have you and Dave Meltzer on the show together. However, I want to take off on your point about Jack Swagger there. You were someone that was in charge of scouting for the WWE and looking for these primo athletes. Now you have the development of the WWE Performance Center, bringing all these athletes together to train in one space to the WWE way of professional wrestling. What's your take on that? Do you think that's a value, or is it better to work other territories?
Well, what other territories are you referring to?
Well, going over to Japan, it's true, there aren't that many out there.
Yeah, it didn't take you long to get through that list, did it?
One check.
So I think that without me being a wise ass, there's just not a lot of territories out there. But you can correct that to certain degrees. You can go to Japan and work for a few tours, or say get some nice dates and work a year. You can go to Puerto Rico, for example, and experience that culture and that style of wrestling for a year, theoretically. I know Fit Finley's kid got right out of high school, and he's a pretty good amateur wrestler there in Georgia, and he's going to go work for, I think, New Japan, but it may be another Japanese group, and I apologize for not knowing, but Fit was telling me at WrestleMania his kid was going to go work in Japan for a year or two, and maybe some other places before, they even thought about bringing him into WWE. I think that's a good way of doing it. The thing that the Performance Center needs to have, they need to diversify their coaches so that they are teaching different styles and philosophies, and they need to bring in experienced talents that aren't going to be called up to the main roster but are good, so that the rookies can work with somebody that's better than them, and then continue to do their house shows, their spot shows, where you want to call them, throughout the old Florida territory. Nothing replicates getting ready to move up better than working in front of a paying audience, whether they're 25 people or 2,500 people, whatever it may be.
JR, what about the actual NXT show itself? Because I find that quite fascinating that they've actually got a show where that up-and-coming talent can actually get that very important, being in front of the cameras as well. Something really I've never seen a generation of wrestlers actually kind of have that.
No, it's a first, and it's a smart move because there's a lot of things that one must learn regarding the television world as a performer. And if they're going to be successful, they're going to be successful on television. Obviously, that's where it starts and ends. So learning the fundamentals of where the hard camera is, where the handheld guys are, various things like that, timing cues, really smart. And that NXT show, at least I'll be honest, I haven't watched it as frequently as I did when I was going down there and watched it be taped.
Right.
But it's got Triple H's fingerprints all over it. It was a lot more fundamental. And I think that's one of the issues that the business is lacking right now in all of the presentations, not just WWE, but everybody forgets some of the very basic fundamentals, and it gets to be lazy booking and lazy wrestling and a lot of shortcuts. So I like the fact that they're doing more fundamental stuff there on their TV show. But if they bring in some guys and they pay them a good buck, and they know that these guys know that they're not going to make it to the main roster, but they're going to be there to do another job, and that is to work in this developmental area, and they still work, they're still in the ring, that will help a lot of those talents get better, because you can't get better if you're working with guys that have the same skill set as you.
Makes total sense. Jim, can we just get you to hang on a bit and take some calls with you?
Surely.
Fantastic. Hold on the line, and we're going to take a break here on the show. When we come back, your phone calls with Jim Ross, your chance to chat with him. If you want to get on the line, 1-855-591-6876 is the number to call. More with Jim Ross on The Law right after this.
Friday nights, TSN Radio has your cage side tickets.
Hey everybody, it's John Pollock here, host of the MMA Report, heard every Friday night right here on TSN 1050 Toronto. Tune in every week as we chat everything from UFC to Bellator, bantamweights to heavyweights. It's nothing but fighting, because it's all that I talk about, with some of the biggest fighters in the entire industry joining us on a weekly basis.
The MMA Report with John Pollock, Friday nights at 11 on TSN 1050 Toronto.
Hi, I'm Braden Harrington, technical producer for The Law. Do you like to stomp a mud hole and walk it dry? Do you like to bash people's heads in with steel chairs? Do you like to sit at home on a Sunday night and listen to a radio show about pro wrestling? Well, if you do, go visit ProWrestlingTees.com/law and get your very own live audio wrestling t-shirts. ProWrestlingTees.com/law, because wrestling shirts are cool again.
On your knees, dog. You deserve the complete package. You deserve A+. You deserve
The Law.
Bow down to the game.
On TSN Radio.
Welcome back to The Law. It's live audio wrestling. Our special guest tonight, Jim Ross, is on the line with us. He's going to be here in Toronto Friday, May the 9th, 9 p.m., the Danforth Music Hall. It is ringside, an evening with Jim Ross. Tickets are still available at Ticketmaster.ca. And Jim, let's talk about the show to kick things off here for our second part with you. What can fans expect when they show up at one of the ringside events?
Well, I think that they're going to be enjoying a very unique journey from one fan's perspective that kind of got in the business accidentally and thought he'd be in it for a short time, and 40 years later, still messing around with it. So it's a fun show. There's a lot of fun stories. A lot of interesting things from the territory days and how I broke in and some of the jobs I had and some of the people that I work with all the way through to now, and including my years in WWE, my years in WCW, working with Bill Watts in the Mid-South territory. A lot of fans haven't had the opportunity to do Q&As with people that spent much time in the wrestling territories. And the territories for me are fascinating, just absolutely fascinating. I think it kind of was the foundation that the corporate wrestling and the wrestling we see today was built upon. So we'll tell a lot of stories. We'll do the Q&As or no holds barred, whatever they want to ask or they want to talk about. I'm not so egocentric that I'll make up an answer. If I don't know, I don't know. But I think we try to have a lot of fun with the Q&As. And try to keep the thing lighthearted, but sometimes the direction of the questioning, you can't find humor in it, because I know that somebody's going to ask me, well, does Chris Benoit deserve to be in the WWE Hall of Fame? What were you thinking when Owen Hart fell from the rafters in Kansas City? Were you in on the Montreal screw job? I can stretch things pretty good from my years of doing television, but I can't even take those topics and make them funny. So it's a real unique show, and the fans kind of do the directing, and it's just as much about them as it is me. And I know John and I had a real good time in New Orleans. And the other thing I like to remind people is that if you don't know if you want to come or not, and you make your decision at the last minute, there will be tickets available at the door at the Danforth Music Hall. So if you're not a Ticketmaster or computer person, you just want to come buy your ticket the day of, they'll be available, just as an FYI.
That's fantastic. And Danforth Music Hall, conveniently located on the subway line.
Yeah, it's really exactly right near Broadview Station. Very easy.
You got it. Tonight, we're also giving away a couple pairs of tickets we'll select 2 callers tonight that are in the Toronto area to give away tickets to. So let's get into that then. John, who should we go to first here?
Let's start on line number 1 with Rob.
Rob, you're on the line with Jim Ross.
Yes. Hello, Jim. How are you, sir?
I'm fine, thanks.
Oh, before I ask you my question, I just want to say thank you for everything you've contributed to the wrestling business for the past 40 years, man.
Oh, it's been a dream for me, so I appreciate it, though. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. It's a dream for me to call on you, man. I've been listening to you for about, 14 years now going on. But anyways, the pay-per-view tonight, Daniel Bryan, I believe, honestly, he's probably hotter than hot right now in terms of fan reaction, in terms of in-ring competitiveness and all that other stuff in that nature. As far as right now goes and the way he is booked in creative, the way he's been, building up, the fan base and the Yes movement and blah, blah, blah. I feel that there's a part of, of the way he is booked, especially like tonight, where it didn't really mean a lot to the way the fans were in attendance tonight over in Jersey, where I'm from, and all my wrestling buddies were there live. My question is basically, how would you, if let's say you were booking this in a sense of putting it in the right situation, the right match, and the reason to be there, how would you book Bryan, or how would you even commentate on telling the story even bigger than, no disrespect to the job that Michael Cole...
Okay, how would you book Daniel Bryan? How would you book Daniel? I believe that was the very long-winded question from Rob in New Jersey.
Yeah.
Well, the thing about as I mentioned earlier, these themed pay-per-view events in a PG era, and when you call one Extreme Rules, knowing what extreme means to most wrestling fans of this generation, it's very challenging. Booking Daniel Bryan in the old days would have been easy. Kane would have beat him bloody, and Bryan would have survived, and he would have sold and sold and sold and not quit. And the story I would have told is that how big is his heart, how much more can he take, and told a very emotional, passionate story, and the graphic nature of what we were seeing would reverberate and enhance the whole story, and then finally he would overcome and slay the dragon. It sounds simple, but it works. But now there's no blood, and I'm not saying it should be blood. I'm just saying that if you're going to have it may be time to rethink, do we need to have extreme rules when you can't be really too extreme in a PG world without coming up with a lot of clever stunts,
right?
I.e. the forklift or Batista going through the 1 year Batista something off a car, or somebody or Cena and going through the background or on the stage. There's always got to be a spectacular stunt now to come up with for Extreme Rules. So it may be time to reevaluate. Do we want to keep the theme of this pay-per-view?
Very, very true, very true. I think something else that maybe they're reevaluating too, Jim, is Daniel Bryan getting this top position. I mean, it was obvious the fans wanted to see him in a top spot, but, we're hearing rumblings now the WWE is going to bring in Kenta from New Japan, another guy who's like works the same kind of style as Daniel Bryan, kind of the same size as Daniel Bryan. I'm just wondering if we're going to start to see maybe some smaller guys finally get prominent spots on the card.
Well, I don't know. I think Daniel Bryan is solid. He's connected with the audience organically. He hasn't been promoted in an artificial way.
Right. He wasn't forced on them.
No, not at all. And so when you're not forced upon the audience, and there's an organic connection made between the talent and the fan, it generally has a real good foundation and has the opportunity to last a significant length of time. Some of these guys, like Kenta, he's 36 years old, I think. He's 5'7" and 5'8". He's the kind of guy that I would want the guys in Orlando wrestling on a regular basis. And guys like him get better. So I'm not saying you wouldn't bring him to the main roster, but those are the kind of guys who are marginal, who might not make it to the main roster, that you certainly want your rookies to be exposed to, and their styles and their abilities and so forth. But I think WWE, with Daniel Bryan, they finally rediscovered it's talent that matters, and some of the greatest stars in the history of the business have been under 6 feet tall.
That's right, yeah.
All right, well, we only have a minute here. We're going to do a very quick question. John?
Okay, let's go to John in Toronto, line 1.
Line 1. John, very quickly, what's your question for Jim Ross?
My question is, what's your favorite or most interesting match that you commentated with Ric Flair?
Well, that's a good question. Jim?
Well, I had a lot of real good Flair matches, and either they were the ones that I really recall were, the first match that made Sting was very big because it was also the first Clash of Champions. It was a 45-minute time limit match that went the curfew, so to speak, through commercial breaks. Very, very significant in the big picture of our business as far as having a live, primetime, national cable broadcast. But the Steamboat stuff and the Terry Funk stuff was also off the page. Can't be replicated.
Amazing. We got to take another break, Jim, but hang out. We're going to put you on the line now with Dave Meltzer when we come back. Sound good?
Yes, sir.
All right, Jim Ross and Dave Meltzer. That's the combo we got coming back.
Wow, what a tag team.
Right here on The Law, Live Audio Wrestling. Stay with us. Hi, guys. Jason Agnew here. If you've ever listened to The Law and thought, hey, I'd like to put the logo of this wrestling radio show on my chest, well, now you can. After 15 years of doing the show, we finally have a spot where you can buy Law t-shirts, and it's online at podcasttees.com/law. The Law, Review Away, What's Next, Something Stupid Braden Harrington has created about karaoke or gremlins. They're all online and available at podcasttees.com/law.
It's time! It's time!
Behold the King of Kings.
King. It's time for the Wrestling Observer Extra.
One more time for old time's sake.
With Dave Meltzer, right here on The Law, Live Audio Wrestling.
And let's go, my now smoking with the best.
Well, tonight, two experts on the line in the world of professional wrestling. As we do each and every week, we're going to welcome Dave Meltzer onto the program. But let's get Jim Ross back on the line. Jim, welcome back here. We had a little sports break there. You still doing okay?
Doing well.
All right, fantastic. And we're putting you on the line with Dave Meltzer. Hello, Dave.
Hey, how are you?
I'm sure you guys talk often. Okay, well, I'll take that as a yes. Dave, quickly, we've had Jim thoughts on the show. We gave ours. What'd you think tonight about WWE Extreme Rules?
I mean, I thought that overall it was a good show. I thought that the Shield and Evolution match was great, and a couple of other matches were good. Nothing was particularly bad. I mean, the Rusev match was essentially what it should have been, so you couldn't call it bad. It was, what it was. The women were put in a bad position, and I thought they did just fine given the position they were in. They weren't going to do any better. So overall, I enjoyed the show. The Cena-Bray Wyatt match, I mean, we were joking about this before, the idea that they went at WrestleMania in a regular match and nobody interfered, so now we're going to go in a cage match.
Mm-hmm. Everybody's interference. And that's what it was, too. We got tons of interference in that match. How about the finish of that match, Dave, with the music and the little kid? I thought after all that we saw, that was kind of a, for lack of a better word, stupid finish.
I always like to wait until we see where the story goes. Sometimes those kind of finishes are just like a cheap way out, but sometimes they lead to something. So I don't know yet. It's like the whole thing is like they wanted Bray Wyatt obviously to win. Cena won the first one. At the same time, they're always and I understandably they're always trying to protect Cena because he's the number one moneymaker. So when you do beat him, you put him in you create finishes to save face for him, and sometimes when you do that, you get really creative, and sometimes that creativity can be very silly, and this could have been one of those times.
Dave, earlier in the program we had Jim on, who was, and obviously still on the line, who was just suggesting that, WWE handicaps themselves by using monikers like Extreme Rules. Do you have that same thought? Or what's your take on the pay-per-views?
Do you mean as far as like the timing where you have to do an Extreme Rules match, or in what sense?
Or just the fact pay-per-view that's called Extreme, and everybody in this day and age, Dave, relates to Extreme as being violence and aggression and blood and guts and thunder. Then you have to rely on sensational stunts and tables burning and forklifts and things of that nature. So every year, if you keep doing Extreme Rules, you got to keep coming up with a different set of stunts to be sensationalistic. You can't do the Seth Rollins bump every Extreme Rules. That's a once-in-a-lifetime deal for him, the way that whole thing was orchestrated. So my point is that maybe it's time to move on from the moniker of Extreme, especially having it in New Jersey. People denote Extreme to mean something that is really not nowadays in a PG world.
I know what you mean. One of the things that I didn't like, and I haven't liked it for years, is when you have the pay-per-views named a year ahead of time, and it kind of forces you, instead of, when the time comes, when the time is right for a certain kind of a match, you go with that match. Instead, it's like, well, when it's the day on the calendar, we have to create, we have to have this match. So, yeah, I see what you're saying there in the sense that if you want to do an Extreme Rules match at the, when a feud warrants an Extreme Rules match, that's fine. But when it's got to be like the show after WrestleMania is Extreme Rules, and you got to have a whole night of, breaking as many tables as possible. Because by the end of the night, there were almost the thought of there were points of overkill, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Dave, we also were mentioning earlier with JR, just in the leadoff story in The Observer this week, talking about Kenta coming into the WWE. I was just curious, really, how this all came about, and really why they would even want someone of Kenta unless they're seeing the success with Daniel Bryan and they want someone similar. I'm very curious about Kenta coming in.
Well, I mean, it's obviously their eyes are more open to smaller guys.
Yeah.
Because at another point in time, he probably would have just been nixed just by the fact that he was too short.
Exactly.
And all that. I mean, he's a great wrestler. I think that it would be, they really haven't had a Japanese superstar, and Japan can be a good market for them. So, I mean, and from the Kenta standpoint, unfortunately, Pro Wrestling Noah has really gone downhill in the last 6 years. And he's 33 years old, and it's kind of like this thing in your mind. I think it's the same thing with Devitt.
Right.
They work there, they like it there, they have fun there. They get in a comfort zone. Although obviously their style is not a comfort zone style. They work very, very hard. But then they get to be in their early 30s, their body starts hurting, and then they also go like, I wonder if I could make it in WWE or and make the big money and be in that international spotlight. And then you start going, I'm 33 years old. If I wait 3 more years, I may have passed up my opportunity. And so it's kind of like at that point in time where you just go, I gotta, I'm going to give it a try. I mean, for him, the mentality of a Japanese guy who's the ace of the promotion to go, that had to be a really difficult decision.
Oh, I'm sure.
Because there's that loyalty to company that the top guy has. So it couldn't have been an easy move.
What about the fear that he could end up like Yoshitashu or something and just kind of sits in the back and does nothing? Like that's the kind of thing I worry about if someone like him comes over. If they don't like him instantly, then they're going to do nothing with him.
Yeah, it's a risk. But life's full of risks.
I see him a different role. I see if one of the issues about the Performance Center is everybody's trained alike. It's the same skill sets, the same. After watching them down there for a lot, and watching the training, which is a great facility, you got to bring guys in that have different cultures and different styles. And I know that's one of the things that Darren Matthews, William Regal has always pushed, is to bring in different guys that have different styles, so that the rookies can work or see guys work that have a different presentation. You can't continue to train them all just exactly alike. Can't happen. And Kenta, for example, would probably be a very, very valuable guy, at least for the short term, in Orlando.
Yeah, I mean, I see what you mean in the sense of he'll open the guy, if they watch him wrestle and they work with him, he'll open guys up to different ideas of working because he comes from a different, he was trained in a completely different system when he trained in Japan.
Absolutely. And that's what if you don't have territories where you can go to Portland and you can go to Toronto and you can go to Oklahoma and you can go to Roy Shire and Frisco and here, there, and yon, where every booker has his own philosophy and the audience have their own specific taste, you've got to bring that taste of the world to Orlando. And I think that's the way of the future there, because you can't continue to train guys the exact same way every single day and then have them retrained and a new mindset when they get called up to the next level. I just don't think it works.
I actually want to talk about, the North American and Japanese styles coming together here, gentlemen, in regard to the fact that, Jim, you're going to be here next Friday during your show, but on Saturday, you'll be attending Global Wars for Ring of Honor, which is happening here in Toronto. Now, you're attending this, Jim. Let's just put any sort of rumor to rest. You're simply attending the Ring of Honor event, correct?
I'm going to the event because I'm a wrestling fan.
Yeah,
okay,
good.
I'm
not going to make an appearance.
Good.
I'm not signing autographs. I'm not going to be a turd and not sign autographs. But I'm going, to go watch wrestling, and I'm anxious to see the Ring of Honor guys. I get to see them on TV here in Oklahoma City because they got great time clearances, and I watch their blurb of a show because they work way too fast. They don't do enough selling. They work their ass off, and I really, really admire their roster. I think the kids work really hard, but man, they're so misguided, miscoached. Now, I may not make me welcome their locker room, but I can care less about that too. But I really am anxious too to see the New Japan guys because I've just seen little telescopic versions of them. So I'm going to go as a fan and have a good time and enjoy hopefully a great wrestling show. Which will be second only to my show on Friday. So, never mind. I'm kidding. The John Pollock show is Friday night, folks.
And I actually wanted to get both of your perspective on the fact that Ring of Honor is making the jump to actual pay-per-view, not internet pay-per-view, but actual broadcast pay-per-view on Sunday, June the 22nd. Pay-per-view has been talked about with the WWE Network as being a dead industry in wrestling. Jim, first of all, do you believe that is the case? And along with that, what type of impact do you think Ring of Honor will have?
Well, first of all, every pay-per-view is driven by its attraction. The business is an attraction-driven business. If you have an attraction that you've gotten over or an angle or a match or a couple of matches, one would think that Sinclair, with all their stations and all the time they have available inside their show to promote with a really slick pay-per-view commercial and all the unsold inventory and all their local stations around the country to promote their pay-per-view, notwithstanding now that people have or a lot of places are angry at WWE, like DirecTV and all that stuff, they're going to get a lot of promo time. So there's going to be fans out there, quite frankly, or some casual fans, that are going to hear Ring of Honor mentioned more than they ever have in their lifetime. So the promotional time is not going to be a bad deal. I'm sure their overhead isn't high. It's worth giving it a shot. So I don't think it's a dead deal, but you got to have a great attraction. You got to give people a reason for buying it. But along the way, the marketing benefits that Ring of Honor is going to pick up inadvertently in this process is going to be a good thing for their brand building.
And now, Dave, we just saw what was a terrible, promoted and terrible period pay-per-view last week from TNA. Do you think that ROH is going to step up here and maybe become, the number 2?
They have the opportunity. I mean, they don't have the TV clearance as TNA does because they don't. I mean, they have it in some markets, but they don't have the national. I don't know if they're in 30, 35% of the country as opposed to 100% of the country, that's a big difference. The thing is that TNA had far less clearance when they were doing far more buys on pay-per-view. So it's more the compelling product than your television clearances, although obviously both are strong factors. I think that for a Ring of Honor to make it, because they're number 3, and because they don't even have the name quality of TNA, although I guess the gap is closing when a lot of the names of TNA are leaving, but they have to put on, they can't do anything less than a great show because there's so much wrestling that good wrestling is something that we see so much of. So they have to be great. The other thing is they got to upgrade their production to where a new fan looks at it and just goes, it doesn't have to be, and it can't be WWE level. It doesn't even necessarily have to be TNA level, but it does have to be comparable in a sense where it doesn't look cheap. I think that's a real key. I mean, as far as the break-even goes, they can, they don't need a lot of buys, and if they have a really hot product and get a big buzz and word of mouth and things like that, there's a lot of people that will buy a pay-per-view that will not buy an internet pay-per-view. Mm-hmm. And that's what they're looking for. I mean, like if they, they're looking to get that and, again, and I think being on TV is more prestigious than being on internet TV. Being on in-demand and all that, and there's more promotional time from the outside, and that's what they need. They need new fans to go with their existing fans. So it's a move that, they have to try, and they're not taking a great financial risk. If it doesn't work, they won't do another one. If it does, then, maybe they can do 2 to 4 a year.
Fantastic. Thank both of you, gentlemen. Now, Jim, you're going to hang out with us for a little bit. We got some more calls from you. That's all good? Amazing. Dave, thanks so much. We're going to talk to you next week. But first up, what's in the Observer this week?
Got a big story on the WWE financials, and there's a lot to it, including how the network is, not so much how the network is doing now because we know how it is, but kind of projections on what it needs to get to where it needs to be as successful. And there's different levels of success. So there's a lot on that, a lot on the regular revenue streams for the network, like between your house shows and your pay-per-view and your merchandise and video division and internet division and things like that. So we got all that. Actually, I got a story on a study on UFC pay-per-views as well. And whatever news comes up, obviously coverage of Tonight Show, coverage of the New Japan show the other night. It's going to be a really big issue. Oh, and WWE directory of all the talent in WWE and everybody's background and all that stuff. The annual thing I do after WrestleMania. So this is a big issue coming up.
All right, look forward to that. That's at WrestlingObserver.com is where you can find it. And Dave will speak with you next week.
Okay, have a great week.
Great, you too. Jim, please hold on the line. I've heard that there's some story about Shawn Michaels on your podcast that we want to delve into next. All right, so Jim Ross is going to come back with us as well. And the Law continues here with your phone calls with Jim Ross right here, The Law, Live Audio Wrestling.
If you want interviews with wrestling's hottest stars, behind-the-scenes news, and the most complete wrestling package on the World Wide Web, then you want The Law. No-holds-barred wrestling radio, coast to coast, with Dan the Most Lovranski and Jason Agnew. Daily updates from The Law's own John Pollock. Plus, uncut, unedited interviews with wrestling's hottest stars and greatest legends. LiveAudioWrestling.com. Log on today. This is The Law.
You might not be an A, but you are a B+.
On TSN Radio.
This, of course, The Undertaker's music. You're listening to The Law, live audio wrestling. Our special guest tonight, Jim Ross, good old JR, who's going to be up here in Toronto on Friday night doing Ringside and Evening with Jim Ross. Tickets still available at Ticketmaster.ca. They'll be on sale at the door as well. But Jim, I have to ask you about this. So you're into the world of podcasting now as well, and your podcast can be found at podcast1.com. I've heard your guest this week is Shawn Michaels with a very interesting story.
Well, Shawn was sitting at the gorilla position at WrestleMania 30, and when the streak ended, and then he picks up the story from that point because he was as shocked as everybody else because it was a very tight circle, very small circle that knew what was going to happen during that event, that match. So it's really a compelling story that I actually kind of backed into it, because it's a matter of talking to Shawn and about a variety of things, and several of my guests that I've had on the podcast that we call the Ross Report we talked about things that happened at WrestleMania. We talked about current events and whether it be CM Punk leaving WWE somewhat abruptly or the Undertaker streak ending. We talked about a lot of these type things. So it was just a basic question, really. And then, but I got an answer that I was not prepared for, and more in depth than I ever dreamed that I would ever get. And it wasn't salacious, internet wrestling community stuff. It was just two guys having a conversation, and one guy who was sitting there that was just sharing his feelings and what he saw and what he observed. And it's certainly going to be different than anything that anybody has written about or talked about to date. So that podcast will drop on Tuesday evening. Generally, it's about 6 o'clock Pacific time, because that's where the show is edited in Los Angeles. So it'll be out. Then it'll be about 9 o'clock for you guys there in Toronto.
Fantastic. Looking forward to it.
That is pretty amazing. What made you make the dive into the podcasts, JR? Was it just some of the ones like Austin and other people having success, or was it something that you wanted to do?
Well, Steve had told me I was, missing a great opportunity by not doing podcasting. So you'll be perfect for it, and so I don't know if that's true or not. But he was really persistent, and then my agent came up with the opportunity, and ironically, with the same company Steve was with. And so I kept procrastinating because I just didn't know if I wanted to. It was kind of like the one-man shows I'm doing. I didn't want to do them if I wasn't going to be decent at it, or people didn't want to come. If it's me and 8 other people, they don't even need name tags. I just remember all your names. Stay around and shoot the breeze, So I didn't know if I'd like it. And then my agent signed. He's Chris Jericho's agent as well, so he gets Chris signed up with Podcast One. Then I'm thinking, well, I keep dragging my feet and procrastinating. What the hell? Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I'm going to give it a shot. So I've done 11 thus far, and I was looking during the commercial break. Right now, my podcast from this past Tuesday with Gail Kim is ranked number 4 in the podcast sports charts.
Nice.
So, and we have, the only time we generally really get beat much is when our people that have multiple podcasts per week. I drop one a week, and I really haven't given too much serious thought about doing 2, but I've done 11, and they've really been fun.
Oh, yeah.
I got after Sean's going to be a 2-parter, and then after that we have Bill Goldberg, which I've already got in the can. So I got Eric Bischoff coming up, and
wow.
We've got MVP. It's a very eclectic group. Bill Watts is going to come on. Tony Schiavone is going to be a guest. A lot of guys. Sting is going to be a guest. They're just a lot of my old friends, and it becomes a way, guys, where you can reconnect with your people that you haven't seen in a long time, and you kind of do it in a public forum. And I don't interrogate them. I just shoot the breeze with them like we're driving down a car or driving down the road in a wrestling trip.
Right. Well, let's get someone else shooting the breeze with you here on the show. John, who's next?
Line 1, let's go to Jonathan.
Hello, Jonathan. What's your question for Jim?
Hey, Jim, how's it going? Big fan of the podcast and a big fan of yours, and keep up the great work. Sounds like you're busier now than ever, but I'm
retired.
Yeah. With the UFC being, I guess, better than pro wrestling, as Jim Cornette has said in the past, what do you think is the quickest way for WWE to legitimize itself? Is it like a different, countdown shows? Is it a win-loss record? Is it something just that simple, or is it more than that?
Well, there are a lot of things that you can do to legitimatize. You could put some rules back in it, for one thing. It's hard to be a heel when you have no rules to break. Second thing is you can certainly rank your top 10 contenders for your title. That means that a match on the segment 5 of Raw between the number 4 guy and the number 5 guy has some significance, even if it's a cold match. A couple things off my head. I don't want to book their territory for them because I don't work there. They don't pay me. But I could. There's a lot of easy things you could do, and certainly the rule thing is so simplistic. It's almost, are you kidding me? Why a closed fist is legal in a pro wrestling match is ridiculous. I'm not going to the Cowboy Bill Watts extreme where if you're thrown over the top rope, it's disqualification. But the reason those rules were in the rule book years ago, rule book I wink at you, is because it added danger. The announcers could point out that being thrown over the top rope was a very dangerous maneuver. But my God, now there's, there's 450 splashes and topes and all that stuff, so we've kind of killed that. And then guys will do, 2 topes and a moonsault, and they don't even sell it. So I don't know what it means.
Jim, we want to get a couple. Oh, sorry. We just want to get a couple more calls in with you here. We got to take one more break, and then we're going to come back. Our final segment with Jim Ross is coming up next, right here on the Law, and then Title Bout Trivia is to finish up the show as well. So hold on for one more segment, Jim. We've got a couple more calls for you, so it's your chance, your last chance, coming up right after this. It's the Law, live out of Wrestling.
Going round taking names, and he decides who to free and who to blame.
India, Echo, Lima, Delta, Shield.
Welcome back to the Law. The Shield music playing. They definitely had the best match of the night tonight on WWE Extreme Rules. But we promised you guys you get to chat with Jim Ross, and that's what we are going to continue to do.
Let's do it.
Jim, really appreciate you hanging on so that people can talk to you.
Oh, my pleasure. No problem. We're glad to do it.
All right, let's do it. John?
Line number 4, Brian is calling in.
Brian, you're on the line with Jim Ross.
Hey, good morning, gentlemen. How are you?
Good.
Hey, Jim, it's a pleasure to be speaking with you. I'm a longtime fan, and thanks for all the years of joy and excitement you gave us.
My pleasure.
And, I have 2 questions for you. Number one, when the best commentators of all time is discussed, the 2 names that get number 1 the most are, of course, you and Gordon Soley. And I know that he was a big mentor to you. What did you learn from him? What did you learn from him that you used in your commentary? And what do you think you have in common? And what are your differences? And my other question is, you were a tremendous evaluator of talent. But was there anybody in your years of watching wrestlers grow that you thought would be a big star and fizzled and went nowhere?
Well, Gordon was a great role model because he gave the profession dignity. He wasn't hyperbole. He used his vocabulary well. He told a believable story, and he had a very distinctive delivery, obviously. So I learned a lot of things from Gordon on how to approach the game and make it his style conform to my style, because I didn't want to be a poor man's Gordon Soley. I just wanted to be myself, and that's what I did. I really, I've been asked that question before. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head because it conjures up a negative, and and in that role, if you carry all your negative experiences with you when you're dealing with all these talents for as many years as I did, it would drive you crazy. So I'd rather just remember the success stories, as naive as that may sound. And the other thing is, when I name names in a situation like that, I invariably throw somebody under the bus. It's not really my style. Yeah, they got kids, they got family. I'm not looking to embarrass anybody.
And now you have a podcast. You might want them on as a guest, too.
Yeah, there you go.
All right, let's continue on with the calls. John.
Let's go to line number 3 with Baroni.
Baroni, what's your question for Jim Ross?
How you doing, Mr. Ross? Big fan, love the podcast, love you as a broadcaster. Got 2 questions for you. First off, I want to ask you, with the Shield going against Evolution, Vince McMahon has been the rumors say he's going to come back. Is Triple H and Vince McMahon Shield versus the Evolution? Vince on the Shield and Evolution with Triple H go head-to-head at WrestleMania. And then I got this question for you. There's a guy named Atlas the Bone down in OVW when you did there. Why'd you guys change his name from Atlas the Bone to Ricky Ortiz? That guy was the man, brother.
All right, so
I don't know that the creative department thought somebody named DeBone was probably more suited for Vivid Video. WWE.
Very valid point.
Might be one thing there, and the other question about McMahon coming back. I only see McMahon coming back for something that's really, really major and huge, something that would help drive more traffic to the network. And that would be something at a major event, which could include WrestleMania 31. But I don't have anything to verify with that. But I wouldn't bring Vince back unless it was something really, really big and special.
All right, next up, John.
Line 1, Steve is calling from Brampton.
Hello, Steve.
Hey, guys. Hey, Jim. I was at my cousin's wedding yesterday, Danny, and upon entering the reception hall, he couldn't help but cup his hand to his ear and gauge the room a la Hulk Hogan for the biggest reaction. My question to you is, what is the best place that you've been to where, in a non-pro wrestling setting, where people have, like, either in a speech, quoted someone or have done, like, a pose or something just out of the ordinary?
Oh, you know, a lot of NFL games you get that, and a lot of college football games you get that, too. I don't know if there's a specific game, but, you know, going on the road, the music, the WWE music or the Talents music or the glass breaking, or the Undertaker's bell tolling, those things happen a lot and get a real good reaction. Just like we've seen on TV with this Yes Chant stuff, and a lot of during March Madness in the States and the basketball, a lot of schools and student bodies are using the Yes Chant. So that would probably be the biggest assembly of people that I've seen.
And finally, John, last caller for Jim.
Let's do one more. John on line 5.
John, you're on with Jim.
Hi, JR.
Hello there.
Hi, I was at the pay-per-view live. It was a great show. How was it for you?
I enjoyed it. I thought it was a solid show. There's a couple of things that were kind of head-scratching, like the cage match ending. I'm like Dave. I like to see that play out and see where it goes. Thought the six-man tag was strictly outstanding, really outstanding. So, you know, it was a good show. I'm glad that I watched it. I watched it from start to finish and enjoyed it thoroughly. First time I ever watched a formerly pay-per-view event on my iPad, so it was good. I would encourage those that haven't seen it to check it out.
All right, I just cut that caller off because we've answered those questions. Actually, though, Jim, I want to talk about the fact that you did watch this on the network. And in regards to the network, some of us up here in Canada have it by some means. But you obviously you have looked at it. What do you think of the network, and what did you go back and watch?
Well, the first thing I watched, I like it, first of all. I think it's a good move. I think being able to control your own, to sell your own ship, by and large, is a good idea for WWE. I think that they're going to get a lot of people by it if they keep the price point in an affordable manner. You know, I was with my wife a few weeks ago. I was doing a little bit of work for UFC, and I was in Vegas, and we stopped at a Starbucks and got 2 coffees. It was $11. And I'm thinking to myself, that's more than a month for the WWE network.
Wow.
So I think it's a good value. The first thing that I watched was the main event at WrestleMania 1 because I was interested in hearing Gorilla, my old friend, God bless his soul, and Jesse Ventura do the commentary. The thing about, I officiated football for 20 years, and it killed me from watching football. I still love football, but I find myself watching the guys in the striped shirts more than I should. The same thing is the same way with watching UFC or boxing or pro wrestling. I find myself listening way too much to the commentary and than I should, and it kind of takes away from my total enjoyment of the show. And that's my bad, not the announcer's bad.
Well, why don't you just put it on pause and just call it yourself? Or put it on mute and call it yourself.
Charge for that.
I have to say, you just mentioned UFC and Vegas right there, and you doing work for UFC. What was that?
I did a little interview for Brock Lesnar piece that they ran on the Fight Pass.
Oh, okay.
And we got a couple of ideas that we might be collaborating on as time goes on. And then I've got some interest in me doing some boxing. So that's what we're just talking about, and it's in the talking stages. So Not with UFC, obviously, but
Jim Ross and Mauro Ranallo as partners.
Can you imagine?
Well, I don't know that Mauro. I'm a big fan of Mauro's work. He's a great friend. He was he was on our podcast as well.
Yes,
Mauro does a great job, and I'm anxious to hear his call of the Mayweather fight that was last night. As a matter of fact. So, but we'll see how that works out. There's a lot of opportunities come your way, and I'm having a great time. These one-man shows are fun. It gets you connected back to the fans. I get to perform a little bit. They see a different side of JR than they normally have, and they're on the play-by-play guy. And the stories are fun. The Q&As are fun. And I have fun with the Q&As, like I said earlier, when the material merits it. So I just hope that we have a great crowd there at the Danforth Music Hall. It's the biggest venue we've ever booked for my show. I got the butterflies, but it's the only date I have booked this year in Canada. And if you're going to play Canada, you got to play Toronto first.
That's for sure. And one quick question before we finish, JR. Is all of the book tours and even the podcast, is this all kind of a setup for maybe a book down the line, or is that something you're not interested in?
No, I'm very interested in a book. I want to do a book that I can write and that I can control the editing.
Right.
And so it can be honest and true, not necessarily salacious. Let's throw people on the bus and urinate on graves. I just think that the book should be honest. So I'm starting to put together some data on that now with a writing partner. We don't have a deal, and we're kind of doing it backwards. We're going to write the book first and then shop it. But the book market's a little bit soft, and I just don't want to give the damn thing away. But I do. If I'm going to give it away or we're going to cut a short deal, I want the book to be proud of what I write.
Sure.
And then let the cards fall where they may. So. We're definitely going to do a book, and I think it'll probably be 2015 before it comes out.
Okay, great.
Well, Jim Ross, we thank you very much for hanging out with us here on The Law for over an hour. This has been fantastic. And, of course, Pete, you're going to be up here in Toronto. Once again, just to recap, it's the Danforth Music Hall, Friday, May the 9th, 9 p.m. Ticketmaster.ca is where you can get tickets, or you can get them at the Danforth Music Hall the night of.
We'll all be there, too. Looking forward to meeting you in person, JR.
I appreciate you guys helping me out with the promotion, and we'll not let you down. We'll have a good time. We'll have a lot of laughs. It'll be a great night, and we'll have fun, and I promise you that. So, but thank you guys for your airtime and your help. I'm very grateful. Appreciate it.
Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's an honor, Jim, and we'll see you on Friday.
Exactly. See you on Friday.
Great.
Good days, boys.
You got it. There you go. That is Jim Ross, and we will be seeing him on Friday.
It's
Hopefully,
gonna be awesome.
You guys will as well. We are going to pick 2 callers from tonight's show to give tickets away to. But when we come back, it's Title Bout Trivia time, guys, especially if you follow wrestlers on Twitter. Just saying, that might be a theme.
Just say it.
Call in right now, 1-855-591-6876. It is, of course, for the barbershopwindow.com T-shirt. That is coming up next. Title Bout Trivia right here on The Law.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is the main event of the evening.
Go one-on-one and get it done.
It makes me the best in the world.
Best in the world.
Best in the world. Best in the world.
This is live audio wrestling's Title Bout Trivia.
Close shot, baby. Right through the glass window of the barbershop. Yes! Yes!
Alrighty, it is Title Bout Trivia time, guys. And, of course, you're playing for the barbershopwindow.com T-shirt. Or
of your choice.
Yeah, or you can also grab one of the Law shirts.
Yep.
We have a bunch up there at prowrestlingtees.com/law. Mouth, you're wearing one right now.
That's right. I have the Review Away one on right now.
The
Very
WrestleMania
nice.
Review Away one. I love
cool.
Wei Ting designed that.
Yeah,
so
I know.
great.
It's awesome.
So great.
Wei Ting has actually designed a bunch of logos for our various shows.
I saw Bauer and Pollock.
I like that
did
one.
He did some new Review Away ones. So Wei Ting getting busy with Photoshop this week.
So maybe those will turn into T-shirts too?
You never know.
Maybe.
Multi-purpose.
We'll see what happens, guys. We'll be putting new ones up there. But right now, you can get one of the ones we have up or a barbershopwindow.com T-shirt. And who is going to play this game, John?
Well, we lost one of our contestants, so we're going to have to install the alternate. We have Jimmy from Boston on line 2.
All right.
And he'll be taking on Corey from Long Island, New York on line number 3.
Hi, Jimmy.
Hey, what's up?
Hi, Corey.
Hey, what's up?
All right, guys. Well, I'm trying something different today. It is still 10 questions, but This is called Twitter Belt Trivia. Okay? Jimmy, you're going to start. I will give you the wrestler. You give me their Twitter handle. Jimmy, Chris Jericho.
I am Jericho.
That is correct. Corey, Christian.
Christian for Peeps.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Jimmy, Dolph Ziggler.
Heel Ziggler.
Yep.
Woo, woo, woo. You know it.
Corey, Alberto Del Rio.
At ADR.
No.
You absolutely suck.
At Viva Del Rio. Jimmy, Eric Young.
Jobber.
You're not
Jobber.
nobody likes
He's the
you.
champion. What are you talking about?
At Showtime EY. Corey, Bully Ray.
Nobody knows the TNA ones.
Pass.
That's his Twitter machine. His Twitter machine communicates at RealBully5150. All right, now here's the deal, guys. For the last four, I switch it up. I will give you the Twitter handle. You give me the name of the wrestler. Jimmy, Milan Miracle.
Vince Humorolo.
Correct.
You're welcome.
Corey, gorgeous.
Tyler Breeze.
You bet.
Go on the internet and tell them all.
I love that one.
Yeah.
Jimmy, at Mex Warrior.
Chavo Guerrero.
Yes. Woo! And Corey, at RRWWE.
Ricardo Rodriguez.
Yeah, that's very good, guys.
That is good. These guys did way better than I would have.
At first, I thought you were cheating, but then you got a few wrong. Nonetheless, guys, very good. Jimmy, you have won by a 4-3 margin. I thought you both did very well, though.
Yeah.
Corey, thanks for playing the game. Jimmy, hold on the line because I need to talk to you after the show to give you details on how to get your prize. Do we want to do the 3 minutes of TNA talk here? Things are about to go upside down in TNA.
Yes, they are. And we don't mean through a table.
And listen, they're already upside down.
It's upside down, yeah.
One thing that we can say, I think that they are really behind Eric Young in regards to pushing this guy as a champion, which is bizarre. But is anyone believing it that is here in the studio?
Believing with him as champion?
I think they're trying really hard with the guy. I really can't fault what they're trying. We can certainly nitpick, who they chose to put in this role, but I really can't fault. I think Eric Young is one of the things they're doing right in terms of just how they are presenting him right now as champion.
At least it hasn't turned into just like a kind of a silly parody. They really are trying to push him as the top guy. I mean, look, they put him over Rude this week on the TV. That's pretty heavy duty.
They did indeed, and other than that, we got Dixie's name on a table. Listen, it just seems like if they're going to do that, and if they're going to tease it, then
they got to do it.
The problem is, though, Spike TV has the rules against.
They do it on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, that's a long way away. When's that?
No,
oh, it's June 15th.
June
Pay-per-view's
15th.
not that far away.
Yeah.
Like, they have to do that. To me, that's the biggest spot you can do in TNA.
Yep.
Any match, any angle. Dixie going through a table in front of the right crowd. You know what? It's going to be in Dallas, that Slammiversary, which is Dixie's hometown.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So that could be crazy. Yeah, I bet you they save it for the pay-per-view.
I thought they would do New York City, but you're right about the fact that on Spike they probably would ixnay that.
Yeah, I heard you say that. That's why I was like, no, I can't do that, guys. Okay, guys. Well, listen, we're going to wrap things up for... we know. We got 3 minutes left. Oh, sorry about that. Oh, okay.
Let's chat about this ROH card next Saturday.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, because New Japan, they had their big Dontaku card on Saturday where AJ Styles won the IWGP title. So he's going to be on that card. It's got Tanahashi and Jushin Liger against Shinsuke Nakamura and Jado. Adam Cole defends the ROH title against Kevin Steen. Forever Hooligans against the Time Splitters and the Young Bucks.
That should be amazing.
For the junior heavyweight tag titles. I mentioned Styles and Carl Anderson. They're going to be taking on Okada and Gato. And Michael Elgin against Takaki Watanabe. So there's a lot of interesting matches on the show. And I think for people that maybe have just heard us talk about New Japan, I mean, just getting to see some of these wrestlers live if you're in Toronto, I think that in and of itself is a cool draw. Just to see Nakamura and Okada and Tanahashi live at the Ted Reeve Arena.
A lot of people complained about the matches is that they didn't mix the ROH guys with the New Japan guys. Hey, just be happy that you're getting to see these like top-level guys, major Japanese stars. You wouldn't get to see them anywhere else. To me, that's the selling point right there. I'm really stoked for that.
I've had a lot of people contact me as well in regards to a meet and greet. We're not doing a meet and greet this time around for Ring of Honor, but we all will be at the event.
Yeah, well, just come up and say hi.
Yeah, by all means, come up and say hi, and we'll be hanging out there. They're always, super fun events. With Ring of Honor Live is absolutely fantastic.
It was funny because Court Bauer will be here as well next week, and W.H. Park was actually here this week and had to go and went back to Japan, but we came that close
having
to
everybody.
Almost every person in the Law family under one roof at the show next Saturday.
That's crazy.
Very, very close.
That's fantastic. So that's where we're going to be on Saturday. All of us are going to be there on Friday night as well.
Wouldn't miss it.
At the Jim Ross. John's going to be hosting it. It's John Pollock, a night with John Pollock, featuring Jim Ross, I believe is how Jim wanted to push it. That's a big draw here, Pollock.
You can ask any questions you'd like. I'm an open book.
I'm going to ask a question to John.
Me too.
It's Ringside Evening with Jim Ross. We've talked about it all show long. Ticketmaster.ca. Get your tickets there. We're going to be back here next week. We'll give you reviews on those two events as well. And if you hit the website, liveaudiowrestling.com, there's also an interview up there that you did this week with Big E as well.
Big E. We talked about the Linear Championship, which is now in the hands of Bad News Barrett. And as bad as tonight's steel cage match was at Extreme Rules, I hear Monday night there's going to be a phenomenal cage match going on.
Oh, there is going to be a phenomenal cage match, John.
That'll make sense.
At Comedy Bar, and if you want tickets, you can email me right now, jason@jasonagnew.com. I'm hosting an improv show, which will have wrestling references, Monday night at Comedy Bar, and I got 5 pairs of passes to give away to tomorrow night's show, jason@jasonagnew.com. We are saying goodbye for this week, though. We'll see you at the events next week or back here on The Law. Don't you dare miss it.
Brother.